Welcome to Close Up Radio, where our hosts, Doug Llewellyn and Jim Masters, bring you the amazing stories of people who answered the call to unlock their potential and taken control of their own success with authenticity, creativity, persistence, and resilience. Close Up Radio special guests share their knowledge and wisdom so you, the listener, can live the most empowered life possible. Close Up Radio. And now, here's today's host, Jim Masters.
We thank you very much for joining us live worldwide on Close Up Radio Live, a service of the Telly Award-winning Close Up Television and Radio. This is your host, Jim Masters. Pleasure to have you tuned in from all around the world. It's also a pleasure to welcome a brand new guest to our series of broadcasts for the next 30 minutes uninterrupted. Lara Schaeffer is going to be joining us of Autism Discovery. She's based in Springfield, New Jersey, and she is an extraordinary certified autism specialist, a highly sought-after keynote speaker as well, and the founder of Autism Discovery. Lara helps autistic teens and adults of all ages to better understand themselves along with their strengths and challenges so that they begin to thrive and not just survive in a typical world. Before she became a coach, she was highly driven, well-loved high school English teacher who genuinely enjoyed and loved engaging with her students. And it wasn't until the age of 47 that she's autistic. And she soon realized that many other individuals were struggling to make sense of their experience in the world, just as she had been. After forming her company, Autism Discovery, she realized how important it was that she be able to be open to others about her autism. But following her instinct to be openly autistic meant she had to leave her teaching career in June of 2023. Still, she sees it as a silver lining that now she can help support more autistic individuals and spread autism awareness and acceptance more actively. Though a combination of goal setting and coaching techniques, providing objective feedback, and asking insightful questions, Lara guides her clients to really personal improvements. Her work with each client is highly individualized. She teaches the skills to empower her clients to overcome their fears and become more productive, positive, and confident. She also helps them lessen the insecurities and doubts that they may have, hindering them from, of course, the autism throughout their lives. Through her efforts, she really strives to raise global awareness about neurodiversity and to help neurodivergent individuals live with more joy and clarity. She comes to us from Springfield, New Jersey, live here on Close Up Radio. It's a pleasure to welcome Lara Schaeffer to our program. Lara, thank you very much for joining us on the program. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Extraordinary story, and you're so real and approachable and open and authentic about the story. I'd love to expand on that as far as what inspired you to want to actually pursue being an autism coach, and maybe you can expand upon the earlier background I sort of just teased in the introduction there.
Yes. Well, I was a career English teacher. I knew I wanted to be an educator since I was 19. And so I went directly from undergraduate to graduate school. So I had my teaching preparation right away. And I was in the classroom at 22. So I had a really long and wonderful career in education. I had a couple of administrative roles. I was the director of college counseling at a Manhattan independent school and the director of enrollment management at a school in New Jersey. And eventually I settled in, and I loved the position I had as the chair, the head of the English department at a school in Summit, New Jersey. So it was not until my daughter's autism was caught, only when she was 15, that's still pretty late, that I found out and got myself evaluated and was diagnosed. And I'll tell you, I hadn't even left my diagnostician's office before asking, how can I help and what can I do? Because I was in such disbelief that at that point my whole life I knew things were not right, and I tried to go down different routes to figure out what was going on, and it still took me that long. So I was just automatically compassionate for other people that are in the place that I was then, and my daughter, going halfway through high school without realizing something like this, and for myself, 47 years. I mean, it's a lot of frustration there, and I want to reduce that frustration and those years of doubt and wonder for as many people as I can.
Is it something that if you stepped back and looked back at it, when you look at even childhood and teen years, do the puzzle pieces fit now? Maybe things you thought or experienced or felt growing up can be tied to that diagnosis as you sort of reassess going back in time?
Yes, absolutely. And pretty much everyone who's late diagnosed has that like sort of time travel experience. Now, some people ask me, did you always kind of think you might be autistic? I had no idea, no remote clue whatsoever. But, yes, as you say, now that I know, now that the curtain's been lifted, so many things make sense. And that is very typical for the experience of people who find out they're autistic late in life. So much of their earlier experiences and troubles and challenges and feelings of inadequacy, feelings of doubt, so many of them magically make sense, and it's like, wow, a really wow sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
A big realization.
Are there
and then
it probably hits you like bricks. It's when it's put together, and like I said, the puzzle pieces are placed in. Yeah.
So with the bricks, some people it is a hard realization. There's some grief, if I would have known, and then the other kind of end of the pendulum is just relief. Relief because they always knew that something wasn't quite right, and finally they have an answer and an explanation. So. It's a big thing. Typically it takes, I would say, a good 1.5 to 2 years to make the adjustment. Especially if you find out, I would say, 35 years old and older. The more life you've lived without knowing, I think the longer it takes to make that transition and to fully kind of wrap your brain around it. People who find out a little younger, in their 20s or something, I think that it can be a quicker transition.
Really amazing. Are there disadvantages of a late diagnosis of autism?
Oh, it's torturous. It really it's horrible. This is a human rights issue, and the fact that getting evaluated can be so difficult, can be so costly. It's just adding to more people not being able to find out. You've got an extended period, sometimes very extended. It could be, by the time life is over, half your life, feeling awkward and odd. It's just an odd experience of knowing you're different, feeling like you're different growing up, but having no explanation. And eventually, probably by your 30s or 40s, determining you're different. Like, I guess I'm just different, but you still don't understand. So there's a lot of questioning and wondering. There's also a lot of trial and error and failure and shame, because what comes naturally to us is not what society expects, and what comes naturally to others doesn't come naturally to us. So there's a mismatch there. And as a result, there's no real firm footing. So the longer that period extends, it's really that's why I said I need to do everything I can to lessen this
for others.
This experience for others. I think everyone should be able to have their identification by, at the very, very least, 20 or so by the time they're out of college. In high school, puberty and other sorts of, complications can make identification challenging if a person was not identified in elementary school. But certainly by the time our identities begin to be more fully formed, by the time we're out of high school and making our way through college, if everyone were able to know by then, there would be a lot less suffering and a lot more agency. And I think the autistic community would be much better able to contribute to society in the ways that I know we have so much potential to do.
It really is amazing, the work that you're doing. Tell us about your role as an autism coach. Maybe you can define the work that you do and how it may be similar and different to that of a life coach. Where there's elements that
Sure.
sort of blend in and out, but there's uniquenesses to it as well.
Well, the real fundamental thing to be aware of is that autistic minds work differently. They simply function in many particular ways differently, and thus our experience with the world is different. So versus coaching a person who's non-autistic, the methods and the messages have to be different accordingly. Autistic people, we need attention in terms of how we interact with the rest of the world because our experience is so different, and that really brings us challenges. So together, the client and I, we work on essentially improving individuals' daily experiences and interactions, and it's very highly individualized depending on what each person's concerns are, needs are, but for the most part, communication challenges, valuing themselves, being aware of their needs, also recalibrating after challenging experiences. Those are some of the common themes, because life is not designed for autistics, and our needs thus are really very different from people who are not autistic.
Exactly. Yeah. It's, you do these incredible things, such as guided adult self-assessments for autism. How does that work? Is that what's happening pretty much in the initial stages of working with someone?
Well, it depends. Many people that I work with already have an official identification of autism. And many don't really feel like they are seeking it. They've done enough research on their own. They identify as autistic, and they just want to get moving on making improvements to their lives. But for people who seek what I offer, this guided self-assessment, it's essentially modified elements of traditional assessment methods, but they're more adult-friendly. We proceed with them at the client's own pace. We're able to have more of a conversation and less of a just one-sided question and answer, which is pretty alienating in feeling. So much more of a friendly process. There's lots of room for questions and personalization in the experience. And essentially, I'm bringing clarity as to what an autistic experience would be like, and we explore in what ways that individual might be aligning with that autistic experience. People know themselves best. So,
Right.
when a person, especially late in life, is assessed by an outside party, we masking and learning how to appear like we're not autistic just because that's what society expects. Some of us have, really become pretty good at acting the way society expects us to, but it's very draining. It's very hard on us. So in addition to that issue, you also have evaluators whose only training and methodology was back from 20 or 25 years ago, well before people understood how many different presentations autism can take. So that's why I say we know ourselves best. And certainly I think guidance is important. I don't think it's an easy process to purely self-identify. And that's why I innovated what I did. I try to really come in at a reasonable fee so that this can be accessible to as many people as possible. Certainly far, far more inexpensive than an official evaluation. And just allow people to get confirmation from an expert, from someone with tons of experience, who's able to put everything that they're feeling into perspective relative to the very, very widely varying autistic, world, and everyone experiences their autism differently. So no two people are going to be the same. So that's another reason that self-identification can be tricky. But if you're guided by someone who has the experience and the knowledge, then it becomes much easier to gain confidence and to know your truth and understand how to move forward.
Which is so important. Both of those things, knowing the truth and how to move forward. Can you describe what life is like living with autism?
It's a brain thing, right? It's a brain difference. And autistic people, we have extremely active minds. There's research being done about actual anatomical differences in the brains of autistic people. And one of the leading theories is that the brain folds that are natural in every person, that the brain folds in an autistic brain are deeper. There's more contact between the brain tissue as a result, and more connections. So, our minds are very active throughout the day. In essence, the theory is that we have more synapses, more sites for transmission between our neurons all the time, right? And just plain old more brain activity. So, for myself, I have kind of multiple conversations and thoughts and problem-solving strains going on in my brain at any one time. Like right now, I could decipher and pick out like 4 different things that I'm thinking of as I'm answering this question. There's monotropism, which is intense focus on a narrow range of interests, a dedicated focus where your attention is just pinpointed a little bit on a particular thing. That can come from these synapse connections. And then importantly, all parts of the mind are involved. So that includes our senses, and so that's why autistic people can often be more sensitive to sound or lights or other similar things. And it really also goes into our emotional selves and empathy. It's sometimes true that an autistic person might outwardly seem less empathetic than others, but it's more often true that autistic empathy is very much heightened. There's many people who explain their lack of comfort with eye contact to this heightened empathy, that when they look directly into someone's eyes, they can see so much of that other person, and it's overwhelming. So there's a lot of misconceptions about autism, but I think if essentially, what it's like to live as an autistic person is this brain that kind of doesn't turn off, is very, very active, and then as a result, we need to rest it. we need to rest any interactions that kind of were incompatible for us, and just in general, because we have all that activity in our brains, and if you don't rest a machine, there's going to be problems, right? So that's one of the things I help when I coach my clients, is to realize how important it is that we practice really good self-care and are self-aware of when we need to step back and have a break.
Very important. Is OCD part of that as well? Certain rituals and certain things you have to do in order to go on with the day?
Yeah, so there are a lot of phenomenon that psychologists and psychiatrists will help people through: anxiety, depression, OCD, various situations that often they can coincide with an autistic brain. So some people whose bodies and brains would be prone to anxiety, they might also be autistic, but sometimes being autistic causes a lot of anxiety because you feel all of the things that I was saying before. So OCD is another one where it can exist outside of autism for sure, but it can be a component of autism, especially when you go back to what I said about interacting with the world, that our brains and how we experience the world really are different. So it can be a bit of a coping mechanism to buffer those different experiences, and it can also be a coping mechanism for what I was just speaking of before, that very, very active mind. Our brain energy needs a place to go. So it can sometimes take that direction, but it's very, very individual in various people.
What are some of the tools and strategies that you offer your clients to help them through this? Well,
everyone is coming into me in a very individualized place, both how long they were aware of their autism, how they feel about their autism, how comfortable they are with it, and then just their situation in life. Are they employed? Are they employed in a high-stress situation? Are they comfortable with their jobs? Are they happy? But in general, the tools and strategies tend to take the direction of help with executive functioning, help with emotional regulation, and what I said before, that self-awareness. It's really kind of beautiful to help people understand the cause and effects of elements that they weren't quite aware of in their life that really do impact them emotionally or physically. So when that awareness becomes raised, then there's a chance to do something about it. And that's when the self-care can come and become more of a role in a person's life and, really reduce stress, raise comfort. And when those small changes start being made, it's a beautiful snowball of ownership in one's own experience. And you no longer throughout your days are surprised and overwhelmed and intimidated by things that seem to come out of the blue. And instead, your ability to regulate, your ability to take care of what you want to do with fewer obstacles, and all of those improve. And then self-acceptance too. People who feel so different, people who society treats in so many small little ways, like they're really failures. Like they're different in a bad way. What they either are doing or who they are or how they are is unwanted. Those messages can really become internalized quickly. And self-acceptance, self-love, understanding for why your brain acts the way it does and experiences the world the way it does, it makes everything so much easier, and it makes it a lot easier to feel good about yourself as opposed to feeling bad, feeling even something like self-hatred at sometimes, shame. It's horrible how a person can feel when they are continually given messages that they're different and even unwanted.
Mm. Yeah, it can be extremely hurtful, overwhelming, frustrating. You know, some people may think of the coaching and therapy as same. How is coaching different from therapy?
Well, in therapy, which is necessary, and I work with several of the people that I work with regularly also see a therapist. Therapy is assuming that something's wrong, that there's something amiss, it's kind of broken in a way, and then the goal is to fix it and to heal it. But with autism, there's nothing wrong. This is just how our brains are. It's how our brains are designed, and there's, instead of looking at it that there's something to fix, there's nothing broken in us, and instead what needs to be focused on instead are ways that we could best navigate the world, our obligations, meet our goals, given that the majority of society and the majority of the people that we interact with don't have the same kind of brain that we have. So interactions, miscommunications, left and right throughout our days, opportunities for feeling discontent or picking up on discontent from others. So really it's a matter of navigating the world, knowing that there's nothing wrong with your brain, but there's probably a lot of glitches in the interaction between your brain and the majority of people who don't have autistic brains. So that's really the big difference, is that, when people, when they go to therapy, they're acknowledging that they're experiencing something that they want changed. Something's wrong with them, and please help me, make that wrong thing go away. But certainly with autism, that should never be the outlook. There's nothing wrong with being autistic, and we can help people who are autistic be more content, be less stressed when they have a good outlook in terms of not taking it so hard when they do get the impression and they do pick up on messages from others that, I am a little different. I do say things a little differently from what you might expect. But also, the world really needs to become more accepting, more kind, more patient, not just for autistic people, but for anyone, for everyone. Kindness, if we can increase kindness and increase patience, so many people who are suffering for so many reasons, simply just having a horrible day or perhaps recently lost a loved one, people who are behaving different.
Still there, Lara? I think your cell dropped. We only have about 20 seconds left. I want to get this information out to our audience before the show wraps up, that you can go to www.autism, autism-discovery.com. That's autism-discovery.com to connect with our very special guest, Lara Schaeffer of Autism Discovery. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have her back and expand some more, maybe even hear some testimonials, things of that nature. The half hours go by so incredibly fast. We thank Lara for joining us here on Close Up Radio Live, a real pleasure. And, this was a terrific show, very important conversation. She loves what she does. She's very passionate about it as a certified autism specialist and keynote speaker as well, and founder of Autism Discovery. Again, the website is autism-discovery.com. I'm your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time, join us again on Close Up Radio Live. Bye for now.
You have been listening to a broadcast from Close Up Radio, a division of Close Up Television Incorporated. For more information about our show and to be considered for future broadcasts, please visit closeuptelevision.com. You may also learn about us on social media and listen to us on podcast and internet radio. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have an empowered and productive day.
It's time to find the power in your numbers with Xero. That's Xero, spelled Xero. Xero is accounting software that gives you financial visibility. Learn more at xero.com. Xero, accounting software for better business.
Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can in the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.